This is destroying Goju Ryu. When we look at the history of Goju Ryu, it's undergone many changes, not only since the passing of Miyagi Chojun, but obviously during the lifespan of him, whereby he made various adaptations, various alterations to the kata themselves, various additions to his system in order to move it forward. Therefore, we have many different versions of the kata themselves. Added to this, Miyagi Chojun Sensei, he used to teach each person according to their individual capabilities. Now, this might factor into it their character, whether they were an aggressive person, whether they were a very passive person, whether they were very calm, whether they were excitable. These character traits play into the selection of kata that he would assign to that person, or the way in which he taught that kata to. Add to that their individual physical capabilities, such as mobility. Were they very flexible? Were they very immobile? Did they have very tight shoulders? Did they have very open hips? Were they able to cover large distances with their footwork, or were they quite heavy on their feet, whereby it required a more grounded style of movement? All these things played a factor into the style and type of kata he taught to these persons. Also, Miyagi Sensei was making various refinements as he went. So not only did he create kata or add kata from other systems outside of that which he learned from his own teacher, he was also tweaking those kata throughout his entire lifespan, altering techniques, changing this stance, removing this jump, adding this kick. All these different things happened at various times throughout his lifespan. So depending upon when the person learned that kata, each individual would get a slightly different version. As a result, when we get to the downstream of it, we now have numerous versions of these Koryu kata and the additional ones that Miyagi Sensei created himself. As such, it becomes impossible to say this is the correct way, because this is the correct way for who? It depends. The correct way for you will be different to the correct way for your teacher, which will be different to the correct way for his teacher. Unless every individual within a dojo is made up of exactly the same characteristics, both physically and mentally, there is an obvious necessity that the kata themselves need to be adjusted in order to fit and work well with the individual in question. Now, this should be fairly obvious, but we want to die in a ditch over whose version's correct, whose version's right. My teacher's the best, he learned first, he was more senior than this guy. This guy only learned for a couple of years, this guy learned for 10 years. All these things, they're largely irrelevant. What we've been presented with is a gift, because through such a variety of teachings, through such a variance in the way this stuff is practiced, we're offered a huge insight into the mind of the man who created the system. Now, he left very little in terms of written material. He left nothing in terms of video material. So all we have is his teachings through the various students. Each of these students offers a glimpse into the insight and the mindset and the creativity of the genius that was Miyagi Chojun Sensei. So rather than arguing over whose version is most correct, whose version is the best, we should be learning from each other, looking at every single one of these variances and discovering what it can mean for us, because the version we learn might not even be the right one for us. There might be something we can take from that version there that fits our body better, that fits our characteristics better, that fits our way of application better. Because again, within this art, there is no one way of applying it. The way we apply it will be dependent upon the individual and the type of character they are. So, in order to grow this art, matter of fact, not even just to grow it, in order to prevent this art from dying, we need to stop bickering, stop arguing amongst ourselves, stop pointing the finger and wasting our time online by getting into flame wars or controversy or whatever it might be. Look into our practice, look into other people's practice, and when we see something different to our own, use that as an opportunity to learn, to study, and to reflect on what we're doing and why we're doing it, and to think about why they're doing what they do. In doing so, we learn more about our art, we allow it to grow, and also we accumulate ways to help other people more. Because if we only have one way of doing things, when we have the student who comes through the door who can't do that method, well, that art's no longer for him. He's now excluded. She's now not good enough to do what we do. So we need to have various means of teaching this stuff, various methods of imparting this information and allowing it to fit the characteristics of every single person that comes through our dojo if we want this art to survive. Just my thoughts for the week.